Hi everyone, it's Oliver Harper here, and I'm back once again with Rob Hill, aka the Bad Movie Bible, for a new audio commentary, and this time it's on Alien Romulus. To my surprise, I've had a lot of requests recently to cover this film. I'm not sure why I've received this sudden surge in requests, but me and Rob are pretty happy to chat about the most recent Alien movie. So folks, if you wish to sync up this commentary with your own copy of the film on Blu-ray or via streaming, put the timestamp to 0 and press play now. I read Fede Alvarez's idea for this kind of stemmed from a scene from the special edition cut of Aliens where you saw the kids at Weyland Yutani, kind of like the colony base, and the guy's like, "Hey, what are you kids doing around here?" He thought it would be interesting to see how these kids would kind of grow up in this kind of world where it's been the this giant atmosphere on another whole planet. How would they kind of cope in that environment? And that sort of created the idea for this, where the film opens with these, these teenagers or early 20-year-olds kind of living on this mining colony where they're in perpetual darkness. People are dying of lung cancer and all sorts because of the mining. And Weyland Yutani won't let people leave, despite them doing their X amount of hours of service. And then within that point, when I saw the film, I was like, oh, they're kind of, we are seeing visual elements from Aliens. I was like, that's kind of cool. But this film opens with the idea that the alien from the first film that was taken out by Ripley has fossilized in space, and they awaken it. It all goes in step with the idea that this was the perfect organism that could live in space without food or breathing. Wouldn't that be... I don't mind that idea, but wouldn't have Weyland just gone to LV-426, whatever, and just gone there and got all the eggs and stuff? But then that kind of would be, to an audience, heavy repetition, of what we've already seen. So I don't know.
Unlike this movie, thank God it avoids that.
Straight out the gate, I think the visual effects are extremely impressive in this film, where they use a lot of miniatures, a lot of practical stuff, and they're shooting miniatures in front of like rear projected kind of like, elements of like the stars and another planet. So there's a lot of thought gone into that. It's not just like, we're going to do everything CG, but it's so it's in keeping with the creativity of the Alien franchise, and obviously keeping the font the same as well for the opening text, and the musical cues of Jerry Goldsmith's music you can hear in the background.
Yeah, often played at the same time as the new score, with about 18 layers of clanging sound effects, the odd scream and some roars filtered in there as well, maybe.
So, Rob, you didn't see us at cinema, did you? You
No.
saw the reaction to it and maybe decided to think, you might give it a miss or wait for it to come out on streaming. But
No, I'd never go and see a film like this at the cinema, to be honest. I love the Alien franchise, as you know, and so when it came out for streaming, I watched it and thought, yep, that's about 2 hours of movie. There's no arguing with that fact. And never thought about it again until you said the other day we should do a commentary on it. And I really haven't got anything to say about it, though. That's the problem. You said, well, rewatch it. That fucking serves me right for saying that, doesn't it? So I rewatched it, and I've probably got even less to say now, actually. But it's, it's 2 hours of movie.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the end of the commentary.
No, I didn't. The problem I have with films like this is always the same. I just don't. I don't feel anything. It doesn't. There's nothing I really enjoy about this, to be honest, because it's all been done before, and it's got this modern digital sheen that keeps me from really engaging for some reason, which I accept. I understand it's my fault. But it does mean you can kind of look at it from the outside a little bit, which is kind of what I did rewatching it. I never got involved in it, so I was just kind of analytically considering what was going on And how much, for example, the score rips off 2001: A Space Odyssey in moments like this.
Oh, it does.
You've got the Angels Choir or whatever it's known as. But it's it's an alien film. There's no two ways about it.
So, what do you think is its main problem? Do you think it's just down to the fact that, obviously, one, you have highlighted that it doesn't do anything particularly new?
No, but then nor does.
Or do you feel like it's played too safe?
I think the problem I have is, like I say, for some reason I just can't create an emotional connection to films like this that are so. You mentioned that they use a lot of practical effects, but it's still shot digitally, or it looks like it is anyway. It's been graded to within an inch of its life, and nothing looks real or organic or natural as a result, and it just leaves me a little bit on the outside. So you can objectively say, oh yeah, one of the problems is it doesn't do anything new, and I don't think it really does, to be honest. But then nor do lots of films that are perfectly entertaining and perfectly engaging. So I don't know what it is, to be honest. There's just something about this whole aesthetic of modern sci-fi cinema in particular that just leaves me cold.
Do you think it doesn't have a distinctive look compared to what we've seen with the previous Alien films, where 1, 2, 3, and 4 all looked different under these directors' kind of eyes?
Probably, but I'm not sure that's really a terminal issue, though.
No.
I tell you, one of the problems I do have, actually. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. One of the problems I do have is that the characters are all just so one-dimensional and so stock. Our only relationship with them is feeling they're pity receptacles, all of them, to one extent or another. They have no other characteristics, no defining qualities. All they are people we feel sorry for. That's our only connection, our only relationship. All we see in them, all I see in them. It's laid on so thick, this how awful their lives are, and because they don't really develop distinct characters of their own, in my opinion anyway. You've got the guy who's kind of vaguely good, and the guy who's vaguely not good, and the guy who hates androids, and like you do in all the Alien movies. But the characters in the first Alien were entertaining in their own right. Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto, their shenanigans together, just hanging out with them as they moan about their job. That was entertaining, and it made them real characters. But for me, I never make a connection like that to any of these characters. All they are is miserable, and all I'm meant to feel for them is pity. That's the way it feels to me, anyway.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, yeah, there is the story sets out you've got to have some sort of sympathy for the characters because they're in a difficult situation they can't leave.
The misfortune that they've experienced is integral and a really important starting off point. It just feels like that's all there is. It's that their misfortune defines them, and they never escape that. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, just to make that added point.
I mean, that's wouldn't that be in step with Sigourney Weaver's character, where she's kind of never going to be able to escape until she dies? She's in that
But we feel things for her more than just pity, though.
Yeah, for sure. Because she's instead of just being sorry for the situation she's in, you do feel sorry because she's lost her daughter, just down to she's in space for so long, but also her friends around her and not being able to escape this monster. But I think in the case of feeling sorry for them, I think that one of the standout performances is David Johnson as Andy, the android.
Yeah. You've just got to the one thing I love about this movie.
He's so good in the film. It is, again, lays on thick with you've got to feel sorry for him, an android who is artificial and all that sort of stuff. It's all kind of designed within his code to be like this, but when he resets and gets upgrades his AI, he becomes a different character.
Exactly.
And I think it's a brilliant switcheroo. I don't mind, Kaylee Spaney as Marie, the sort of Ripley-like character, but
yeah, she's a perfectly adequate character delivery device. I have no problem with her. She does what she's meant to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, David Johnson is the only one in this film who actually does something interesting.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And the other characters, Marie's kind of ex-boyfriend who's kind of has the idea to sort of leave and steal the cryo chambers, whatever it were, to make them so he can sleep on this journey. I mean, he's not a bad performance. I don't think anyone does a bad performance. I think he's just a stock kind of good guy.
Oh yeah. No, it's the character writing that's the problem, not the performances, I think.
And then you got his cousin who's like basically a chav. And that's who he is, and he's just a mouthy, gobby sort of guy who gets his comeuppance. But you sort of don't. He's got again written to be somewhat unlikable, and you understand why he has beef with androids because they sacrifice.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that seems really odd to me because he's presented as the scumbag guy who we're meant to hate. But then we're told that the only reason he's acting like this towards Andy is because his parents were effectively killed by an android. Not exactly, but indirectly. And so then why are we meant to hate him if, number one, he's only like this towards Andy, and number two, he has a reason for it. It's not a good reason, but it's an understandable reason. So therefore, what is he? If we're not meant to hate him, what's the point of him?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose it falls in line with when you have characters exceed upon. You've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters. No, 5 characters and an android, right? So there's not that many. I mean, you can remember all their names because there's not that many of them, and they don't. But despite a limited cast, you don't fully get to know these characters outside of their traditional traits.
They remain completely one-dimensional, and yeah, they never develop fully rounded characteristics of, like they do in the first Alien. And to be honest, a lot of them have, like people like Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton probably have a lot less screen time and dialogue than some of these guys do. But they still leap off the screen
because the dialogue they're given really explains who they are and helps the audience.
It's not written by AI.
I don't think it's written by AI.
No, but it it sounds like it could be.
It falls into because Fede had done other horror films. The only one I've seen of his was Evil Dead, which was obviously a remake, which I watched once and I thought that was very gory and scary and impressive to look at, but it wasn't. It kind of lacked what I come to like from that franchise was a little bit of dark sense of humour to it all, and it took itself a little bit too seriously, which is fine because that was doing that
like this.
Well, yes. This film is somewhat lacking in humour, which is it's not a thing that is you desire from an Alien franchise, but it always helps.
It does, and you don't. The film itself doesn't have to be funny. You just need a couple of characters who don't take everything really seriously. Again, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto. They're not comedy characters, but they lighten the tone because they don't take everything really seriously. They dick about a bit, and it's exactly the same in the sequel with Bill Paxton's character. Aliens is not a comedy in any way. There's nothing humorous in James Cameron's direction. But if you stick a couple of characters in there who can do a little bit of banter, then you get to lift scenes in between the moments of heavy duty and darkness and so on.
Well, that's where Andy comes in, where he has to. Well, he tries to lighten the mood by telling you a joke. So that's the only way they kind of deploy it. When I first saw this, I enjoyed it for what it was. I wasn't angry about much of it. I mean, I kind of and ahed about some of the sort of the nods to the other films that we saw earlier, where they're eating the cornbread, and you got the nodding duck thing or chicken thing that you saw in the first film. It's kind of like, set decorator getting a little bit carried away. But if you can't have those little moments be the be-all and end-all of one's criticism of the film. I think it's...
No, and it is and my reaction to it is a bit more complicated than that anyway. Because the first time I saw it, I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd and ticked the like box.
That's fine.
Rewatching it last night, I gave it 2 stars and didn't tick the like box, which is pretty brutal for me, to be honest. I'm generally fairly... it's not often that like box doesn't get a tick, but it was just... It was broad. It was largely because I just don't see the point of it. It doesn't do anything that hasn't been done before. I'm not going to harp on about that though.
Well, you could say it feels like a best of. It takes the elements that work in each of these movies and puts them into one feature film. Some critics had complained that it kind of lacked ambition. That it doesn't really. I mean, it's a very simple premise. Steal these things from a space station, and then they get overrun by aliens and escape. Right? That's it. But Alien, very simple story. But I think come 2024, you're going to want something probably a little bit more complicated, or a bit more elaborate than just a simple
and
guys jump on a ship.
Or keep the narrative that simple, but have more complicated and nuanced characters running about within it, or give them more complicated motivations. Because I nearly didn't bother. I think it gets better once it gets from Alien to Aliens. For me, everything picks up a bit, and once Andy is rebooted with the the Wayland protocols back in place, I find him a lot more interesting. At this point, I was wondering why I remembered liking him so much, because for an android, his face is so ridiculously expressive and so designed to make us feel empathy for him that it was really irritating me, to be honest. It's like, this is just it's too heavy-handed. But it does kind of, everything does lift a bit later on when it starts to get down to the brass tacks of it. Because I think maybe because we're no longer having to wonder what everyone's motivation is and why they're doing the things they're doing. Why have we just had a scene, or are we still in it, where she needs convincing to do this? She's just found out she will almost certainly never be allowed freedom from this slavery. At the same moment, an opportunity to escape lands in her lap. And she's like, oh, no, that's a bit scary. No, I'm not going to do that. Why? That doesn't make any fucking sense at all. That character should just... But that scene has to happen because these movies need those scenes. You need the scene where the person's persuaded, where there's the moment where the magic thing is said that makes them say, oh, yes, you're right, now I see it all differently, and now we can go to... All that stuff really irritates me, really does. And
do you think there maybe should have been more time with them on the planet before they decide to go on this excursion, as it were?
Exactly, and that's another big problem, to be honest, that I have anyway. This is a subjective thing. I'm not saying it's wrong of the movie, but what you were just saying about Fede Alvarez liking the idea of this, like, what's it like for kids in this world? What's it like for teenagers in this world? That's a really interesting movie, but we're 17 minutes in now, and it's already completely irrelevant.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
It will have no bearing on anything that happens from here on.
And we don't see really much of the problem. We're just told by conversation.
We get them complaining about their lot, and we get one scene of a woman saying, "No, you haven't done enough work yet. We've just doubled the amount of it," and that's your 2 minutes of Terry Gilliam. And and apparently that's what motivated him to make the film. Well, then make that film, not this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a 2-hour runtime. Probably about an hour 50. Take away the end credits. But I think there's definitely a sort of third act problem in terms of its pacing, which we'll get to. And obviously, when they throw in the hybrid alien Prometheus engineer at the end, which I must admit was creepy as fuck when I saw it on a massive screen. I was like, this is Alien Resurrection again,
Yeah.
Which is kind of fine. I mean, it's if you really enjoyed Resurrection when it came out, or kind of so on it, it's another. Again, it falls in line with the best of elements. So the standout piece of Resurrection was kind of that, even though it's fucking gross and weird, and it is. The guy they get to play the engineer, it's a real person. It's not a CGI character. It's
so there's going to be. I'm afraid there's going to be a lot of this for me because I've done nothing to learn the mythology behind this movie, or this part of the alien mythology. That like humanoid biped-like alien at the end. Then is that that's an alien that's been gestated by an engineer, or is that an engineer? Like that's mutated.
It's a mutated engineer.
It's a Oh, see, I thought it was. I was wondering, like, which which avenue of hand waving bullshit did Fede Alvarez impose on the movie in order to explain why the alien now looks like that? Was it the hand waving bullshit that says aliens can be different depending on what gestates them? The hand waving bullshit that says they can be different depending on how they were designed, or the one that says they can be different because of genetic manipulation? Which excuse are we using?
Tick whatever box you want, Rob.
Why can't they just look like the fucking alien? It's called Alien.
What goes in step with, with complaints people had, in particular, about the AVP series, was how long it takes for a facehugger to gestate. Happens pretty quickly in this movie. Quicker than AVP.
Almost like all the recent Alien movies, it happens exactly as quickly as the screenwriter wants it to.
Yeah. With, I think, the longest period. I think we did discuss in Alien 3 commentary where it takes Ripley a long time because she's, giving birth to a queen, which may take longer.
Oh, absolutely.
Charles Dance is given her medication to slow it down unknowingly.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Of course.
So, yeah, get out of jail free card for that film. But, Rob, I did know, people listening, I did give Rob Alien Isolation for Christmas, which I presume he hasn't played because he's been obsessed with GTA 5. But this film does borrow a kind of few visual elements from that for fans to notice.
Oh, I did hear that somewhere at the time, actually. Yeah. Oh, so that's the alien. So the Alien movie, the Alien game you gave me is the one that this borrows from.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Because that takes place. Well, you're playing Ripley's daughter, who's gone looking for her mother essentially, and she's on another giant Nostromo ship, and you're just entering the world of Alien, and it's like amazing. It's so well done. And there's little moments in the game when you save the game and you press this button and go, and it, it's like a telephone thing. That's it. It's a telephone you save, and you see there's elements here in the film. There's little nods to things like that. But I mean, it's only a small amount of things. It's not a direct copy. But fans were like, oh, it would be quite cool if Alien Isolation was kind of turned into a movie, perhaps. But this, again, sort of has elements of that would, I suppose, satisfy those who would desire such a movie. Fede had gone to Ridley Scott's company, Scott Free, with the idea. I think where Ridley was kind of put himself in a corner, or because Alien Covenant didn't perform very well, which me, you, and Nick Helm had discussed, and critically didn't do well, and it left a bad taste in many people's mouths, and they didn't know where to go, I suppose, with David and the what he's going to do with the black goo and stuff. I think this film was essentially fills in the missing parts, doesn't it? Like a gap where you encounter the black goo later on. What Ian Holm, or Rook, the android, has been working on. So that kind of if you're trying to, the film doesn't ignore the events of Prometheus and Covenant. So as we see at the end with the big monster, but you can either be happy with that or annoyed with that,
or just not understand what's happening. In my case,
yeah.
To be fair, I was simultaneously researching Bruceploitation whilst really probably more listening to this last night, if I'm honest. It did give me a different perspective there, because as you know, I often don't really notice the score in movies unless it's really profound in one way or another. I tend not to notice it. But because there were spells of this where, visually not a lot's happening and I wasn't really paying attention to the screen, that kind of heightens your awareness of the audio, doesn't it? And I did rapidly come to the conclusion that this might be my least favourite score I've ever heard.
Really?
I think it's absolutely terrible. Absolutely fucking awful. I hated it. I've never contemplated turning a movie off because the music's annoying me so much, but I did with this.
The only parts of the score, because Benjamin Wallfish, who did the music, did like Shazam. He's done a bunch of really big movies. I just need to double check what he's done before I make any, I don't want to miscredit him. But there's parts of this score where he, lovingly acknowledges Jerry Goldsmith, James Horner, with their musical cues. But then he did a film called The Invisible Man, the remake Invisible Man, and there's parts of that where it has this electronic, just like sort of noise. Like,
Yeah. Sorry, do you mean the Verhoeven Invisible Man or the recent one with what's her name from Mad Men?
yeah, one for Mad Men.
Yeah. It's good. It's
It's a
good.
good film, yeah. And he did that score, and he had that kind of electronic sort of like dubstep, whatever it is, noise.
Yeah. That's it. That's yeah.
Absolutely hate that noise, and it doesn't belong in an Alien movie. It doesn't belong in any film score.
It really it is so out of place, and it's so loud, and he often uses it when there's like a subtle orchestral score, whatever it is, in the background, and it's not like beat mixed, to use a DJing term. It's not in time, so you have two different pieces of music, and then at one point he blends in just like literally just two notes of the Alien theme, the original Nostromo theme or whatever it is, on top of that. So there's three different pieces of music playing that are totally unaware of each other. Lay onto that the
Sound effects.
the sound design people just need murdering. There isn't a single moment of this movie where there isn't something happening in the soundtrack, and usually several things at once. It's so busy and overwhelming, and busy is the word. I think you don't really necessarily notice it because it's not like really dramatic or intrusive as such necessarily. But it's just constantly there in the back. There's this solid dirge of sound all the time. It gets oppressive.
There was, I think we may have mentioned in the Alien 3 commentary that I know the sound guys were sort of conflicting with the score, because Alec Goldenthal had done sound effects within the score, like this kind of chiming sounds, and you think, well, what's going to be favoured, the score or the sound effects? And some of it sounds the same. So you've got these kind of two conflicting pieces of music, or or sound effects, and what's how are you going to balance that? And I would presume to your ear, it sort of seemed wildly unbalanced with
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's in specific. There are specific places where it happens where it's worse than others, and I did make a note of some of that. But
I hate this bit. It's like,
most of the time you're not going to notice. But there are points where once it's in your head, you kind of can't escape it. And the kind of thing you're talking about is a really important skill in the sound design of a film. How you interweave all these different elements: the diegetic sounds, the non-diegetic sounds, the human sounds, the music, the sound effects, the Foley, all this stuff. And I can totally see how someone could watch the movie back and go, oh shit, yeah, there's a bunch of problems here. We need to rearrange this, do that, as they did with Alien 3. It just feels like this just got a pass on all of that stuff somehow.
if you took, like, there's big action cues coming later on where it's got those kind of electronical kind of, just thumps of noise.
Yeah, that's the thing that really bugs me. Yeah, that.
If it was like that music was at the end of Aliens, where you've got the the track's called Bishop's Countdown. It's like that was always used in trailers. The music there. If that was that would be the most frustrating thing ever, because that piece of music originally is like it was a masterpiece of writing, and you want that type of thing for this type of movie, and I don't think
exactly. It's incongruous if you suddenly start dropping really modern digital soundscapes onto a movie like this, because it's incongruous to me anyway. Maybe it isn't to younger people who haven't got aren't as ingrained or whatever. But these films have the scores they do, and they're set when they are, and they look how they look, and all that's maintained. But then it's like in Return of the Jedi when a fully CG digital character suddenly bursts into your face in the middle of a scene full of puppets. It's the same kind of thing. It seems incongruous. It's just really weirdly wrong.
in the behind the scenes they were talking about the production design, and the cast were like just fascinated with the sets, because they built a lot of sets and there's not a huge amount of CG extension, unless it's kind of an exterior, but some of that will be a miniature. And they were saying, oh, it's like being back in the 80s, because they've got the retro kind of computers, and they're actually using this iPads with a filter on to sort of give it that sort of bowed kind of CRT look, right? It's quite clever design. And but if you're going to essentially do a retro movie, which this is trying to be. It's not trying to be modern in terms of its execution of, like, are we just going to do green screen for everything? You know what I mean? They're using modern tools at their hands, but they're very much trying to honour make it feel like it was made between Alien and Aliens, right? It fits within that kind of aesthetic, doesn't it? They're gone for the 80s look of the future. But if you're going to then throw on top, lather a modern score, where most people today complain about modern scores being generic and boring and bland and forgettable, the only piece of music you are going to recognise from this film is the musical cues by Goldsmith and James Horner. And there was a little nod to Prometheus, that thing, when they see the black stuff, right? So I suppose that's a kind of frustrating thing, isn't it? Because people are so familiar with themes and tunes and if that's the only thing you can listen to in a score or recognise from it, or come away and go, well, that was good. Oh, that's actually just a repeat from the past.
And if you're like me, then, and I appreciate, again, I might be different here, but I don't like that. I don't like hearing a few bars of a melody from it's breaking it's literally breaking the fourth wall. When they at one point they say the word Nostromo, and as they say the word, from nowhere comes in a stab of that score. That's basically turning to the camera and going, "Remember the Nostromo?" It's breaking the fourth wall. It's so freaking obvious, and so it destroys that diegetic non-diegetic line somehow.
I imagine they probably would attempt the film with the score by Goldsmith and James Horner easily, just to sort of as a rough cut. And then probably Benjamin Wallfish was like, well, what can I change? Because as all composers argue about, is that a director will fall in love with a temp score.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened on 2001, which we've already mentioned.
Yeah. So as we see here, that the guy's clearly pissed off with the android, and she's like kind of observing it all and just tries to again show some sympathy for the ex-boyfriend's cousin, whose parents were killed. But then in a minute, when they go into the chamber where all the facehuggers are, it's we're never told about this in the film, but you just think, oh, they've got facehuggers there. When they heat up, they'll wake up, right? In the behind the scenes, they talk about them basically printing them. So you think, where do they get the facehuggers from? So from the DNA, they've reconstructed it and essentially 3D printed these facehuggers. I thought it was quite clever. But it's never told about that. You're just in this room with these kind of square shapes where you've got this mould of a facehugger. It's a bit like when you're a kid, you sort of kind of like rubber things that were inside this vacuum packed. Yeah. It's basically facehuggers vacuum packed into these things. It's a bit like when you see Chinese food being sold, over the counter, not like, oh, it's fresh. It's all like, you know what I mean? Yeah. That kind of goes in step with that.
That's why I never go to a certain very famous Japanese food chain here in the UK, because I used to work next door to one, and every morning they took delivery of boxes and boxes of pre-cooked rice and noodles.
Oh. Well, yeah, when I was a projectionist, I was set out back having a fag, and there's Frankie's and Benny's would turn up delivery. Everything's just microwaved, people.
Yeah. It's exactly the same. If you want to name it, I will. So it's Wagamama. Everything's fucking microwaved, and they've got a row of like cooking stations that you can see people stir frying stuff as well. But I don't know how they work that. Maybe it comes. I don't know. Yeah. The one of the problems I have with Andy as well, that this point of the movie is, again, we're meant to feel empathy for him, and also in fact later on when she's basically prioritizing his life over actual humans, they're relying on us developing an empathetic relationship with Andy, despite the fact that he's an android. And the problem, if you watch as much sci-fi as I do, is that's such an old issue that it doesn't touch the sides anymore. Nothing is going, no matter how well this role is played, nothing is going to make me feel genuine sympathy for him because he's a droid, he's an android, he's not real. I can't. I can't make that step anymore. It's either I'm too cynical or I've seen it too many times.
Yeah, I think once you've seen too many sort of sci-fi dystopian films, I think from the 70s and 80s, an android's going to be, it'll just go for you. You know what I mean? And if you've seen the first Alien film, very much so. So, you have sympathy for Bishop, though. I do. In Aliens, you feel. I hate it when Ripley's horrible to him, but he's like really nice and stuff to her, tries to be polite.
That's Lance Henriksen as well, though, isn't it? There's a layer of,
because we're all, because we're human, we have empathy. So you sort of see, you see past the fact that he's an android, you see human emotion.
Well, you're supposed to, yeah.
Yes, but in the case with this, most of us would probably thought that he would once. That could be the twist, couldn't it? Once he'd had the AI upgraded, he would become full-on company man. But he does, he doesn't kill anyone, but he just chooses not to save people down to the fact that he'll get killed, and the others. So he's thinking, like the android who let Beyond's parents die,
Mm. But it's also so frickin' obvious that at some point he's going to end up, returning to his base program. Again, this is something that every android at some point does in every sci-fi movie. Their personality that they've developed is either deliberately or otherwise written over with their original core programming, and that turns them in, and that creates an issue for the characters who have developed an emotional relationship with the android, like she has. Because obviously they're extremely vulnerable to anything he might do, and they're upset because it's. If you've watched as much Red Dwarf and Star Trek as we have, never mind all the rest of it, then this is old hackneyed stuff, and we know full well, as we do with from the moment they're all sitting in that room 10 minutes into the movie, you can predict every single character moment and event that is going to follow, and nothing is a surprise, frankly, absolutely nothing. You know full well who's going to die, when and how. You know full well that Andy is at some point going to go bad, so to speak. But they're going so hard on this empathy thing, I think you assume that he will then come back to good again, which, is another cliche in these narratives. But he is good, though, isn't he? I don't want to slag it, because he's the only interesting performance in the movie.
Well, yeah, it is the standout piece. Because he gets the most to do, really, and doesn't get killed off. But
and he's just got that incredibly expressive face as well. His face is extraordinary. What he can do with his face, that actor.
Earlier on, when they're all together in that, before they, deciding on the plan, you see Andy playing a video game, and I think the video game is called Bug Hunt, which is in Aliens, where they go, we got some bug hunt, blah blah blah.
Bug hunt. Yeah.
So okay. I do like this little contraption here, the portable X-ray. That's quite a cool device. Which is, it just sort of a great little thing to deploy later on, because she does that, and it's kind of foreshadowing she's going to check where the alien is, and you can see it crack a rib, which is quite nasty.
Yeah.
So all this stuff, this animatronic puppets they've got for Rook later on, and it's a mix of human person and also an animatronic. So really good practical stuff by Legacy. I think it's a Legacy Effects and Alec Gillis's company. And a bit of Weta, and so what I remember was that they had brought on a lot of the key players from the other Alien films and put them all into one team to work on this. So the guy who helped build the Alien Queen on Aliens would work on the Alien in this, and that's a mix of a guy in a suit, rod puppets, traditional animatronics, and then anything that was kind of too extreme to move around will be replaced with CG. And again, it's CGI is being used when at the right moment. It's not just like we're a blanket slate, we're going to do all this CG. There's a great mix of stuff, and that's what makes films like the Alien films all kind of stand the test of time. In some cases, when they start getting a little bit ambitious with the optical days with Alien 3 and Resurrection using CG, in places where it's a bit outdated now. But the stuff underwater in that film where they're trying to escape, and it's quite well done.
Yeah, yeah. Which there's kind of a reference. There's a lot of references, aren't there, in this to scenes to the memorable scenes of the previous movies.
Even use of colour, you know what I mean? That sort of use of red in Aliens and stuff, and actually, what this film does actually is use the face huggers a lot more, because we never saw them doing that much in the other films. There's always be a quick in Aliens when she's trying to escape in the medical bay, and you saw them in the containers and stuff, and number one, it's only a brief moment. So this one, you get to see loads of them doing stuff, which I think is a great little moment.
Yeah.
To have fun with the face huggers, which is basically, as we all know, it's like a dick and balls with spider legs, you know.
So is the fact that they're 3D printed, is that canon? Has that been the case? I can't remember for the life of me now what any of the mythology is for this series.
Well, for them to clearly it's extracted the DNA from the xenomorph and able to replicate. I don't know the sort of.
So this is Weyland-Yutani printing.
Yeah.
The thing, not the what's it? It's the tall giant alien people.
The xenomorph.
Engineers. Sorry.
Oh, the engineers. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what they implied in the behind the scenes. That these were 3D printed, you know, or bio printing, isn't it? You know. I think the weapon he has, the stun thing, that was used in Alien Isolation, the video game. I'm not sure. Was it used in the other films? The sort of electrical prod thing. I don't recall seeing it. Oh, in the first one, they've got a little stick, haven't they? They go, don't they? So.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
It's a a more modern version of that, isn't it?
That's Alien Resurrection. It's Alien Resurrection that does that all the time with the camera.
The camera, yeah, just does this, and it's sort of. I mean, it's it's a good filming in this. I think the film generally looks really fucking good.
It does look good, to be fair, yeah.
Rob, if we were working on this and we'd shot this, or Chris had shot this, our mate Chris Stratton, we'd be like, fucking, this looks amazing. You know what I mean? You couldn't complain.
Yeah. And also, one of the notes I did make was that I wish they'd hold some of the exterior shots longer. There's a few really beautiful shots of like a space station or a space vehicle of some sort, a sun in the background, flaring out, and all little space elements floating about, and it comes up and then it goes again 3 seconds later. Like, hang on a shot like that for a while. Especially as they're actually playing music they've stolen from 2001 at the same time.
It's actually that complaint is very similar one I had with Gladiator 2, where they'd show you exteriors of Rome, and you're like, oh, it looks amazing, but it's like 3 seconds, poof, gone. I'm like, oh man, just let me just soak in the sort of look of this film,
And also, I didn't realise that they'd used so many older visual effects techniques, so it's quite interesting that for the first time in a long time that I've seen images of spaceships and thought, that looks great, can we have more of that? Apparently it turns out it's not necessarily all CG, so that does make a lot of sense and vindicates my hatred of everything digital to some point.
Yeah. I mean, it's always shot on digital cameras, but also it's been graded with a slight 35mm grain over the top, which is kind of common to give that filmic look. But there are moments of it we just think that looks like a film. There's no. Yeah. I can't. We will get to the point where you can't distinguish between the two 35mm.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think I can a lot of the time. Certainly, if they're trying to make it not look so digital and awful. But I saw an interesting YouTube video a few weeks ago about this, where the guy was like, "We've got to stop blaming digital cameras for how shit modern movies look." It isn't just that they're shot digitally now. Yes, it was. They did have these problems back in the day. The early digital cameras were shit, but now they're absolutely fine. And now, if they want to make it look as good as a film, then they can and they will. It's processes unrelated to that are subsequent that make it look, I don't know, whatever it is, the quality that I can't define.
It's often, I think, as it's too clean and flat.
Yeah.
It's often the case where I think filmmakers have got. The producers has been looking at the rushes all the time where it's ungraded, and they fall in love with how it looks ungraded, and they just do a slight tweak of it in the final grade. And I've watched TV shows thinking, that hasn't been graded, that looks raw. where's the LUT? Where's it gone?
Yeah.
And people kind of fall in love with that. Thankfully with this, there is colour to it. It's really rich in colour. So it's gone for that. Where Aliens is very blue, and number 3 is kind of muddy, kind of browns, and then Resurrection's kind of a pissy yellow, and then this one's got like an orange hue to a lot of it. Now, me and Rob were kind of mentioning the stuff with Ian Holm before we started recording. Now, in the theatrical release, due to the tight schedule, they couldn't finish a lot of the effects on Ian Holm to fine tune the CG double, because it's not complete CG double. There is an animatronic. There's a puppet there. If you watch the deleted scenes, that you can see the puppet and his mouth's moving, but it's very kind of basic. It looks like a puppet.
Sorry, I burst out laughing at this moment. This is the equivalent of the look behind you in an old scary house movie, and they all look behind them just as there's a huge thunder and lightning clap that illuminates the monster.
Yeah.
That was a space thunderclap that we just had then.
But I'm surprised I didn't see it before. You didn't even just think to look up,
Well, no, they wouldn't have the dramatic moment, and they didn't have the thunder. They didn't have the lightning lighted up, the space lightning that illuminated it for them. Sorry,
that's fine. But people had complained about the quality of the CG on the face. I remember it being a little bit too soft and stuff, and people were getting upset because Ian Holm passed away a number of years ago, bringing his likeness back, but Fede had spoken to the family. They were completely up for it. They loved the idea, so I'm cool with that, right? I'm not going to get any sort of debate about, using someone's likeness because they passed away. If you get the permission, then it's fine. Obviously, Ian Holm can't speak for himself because he's passed away, but, But due to complaints of the CG not looking great, there was money spent to fine-tune it for the home release, and it does look really good. I mean, I don't have an issue with it at all. There was like 2 shots when we're theatrically thinking to myself, oh, that could have been a little bit better. But now it looks as good as it can be. They said like Ian Holm had never done a face cast for Alien, and the only one he had done was for Lord of the Rings.
Oh yes, I remember hearing this. Yeah.
So they used that to mould his face for the CG to scan it into the computer. So I suppose a slightly older Ian Holm they're kind of making reference to, because he was 42 when he did, or 43 when he did Alien. So he's quite an old guy, middle-aged by that point.
No, I think he looks completely convincing, to be honest. It's more like a conceptual problem rather than a practical one I've got with Ian Holm, because of course I've got a problem with Ian Holm in this movie, because he's like, why is he blatantly a villain right from the start? Why is it like in the first film you have no suspicion whatsoever because it isn't telegraphed, at least not heavily. It's, in a couple of clever little scenes that you see afterwards maybe, but it's not telegraphed that he's going to go evil. In this, when they find him and turn him on, you get a massive stab of horrifying music, the lights go crazy, and he lunges up and grabs someone and tries to yank them off their feet. And it's like, why are we being introduced to a benign android like that? Okay, we know he's evil, and they don't, though, and we don't need to be, we don't need to have our knowledge that he's evil validified by the fact that he's apparently now he's this rabid foaming dog mouth monster. And then after they get their cheap shock of having him start up like that, every shot of him you get, he's kind of scowling. Look at his face here. He's blatantly evil, but he's not. Number one, he's entirely benign. It's programming that's going to make him one thing or the other. So there's no point in framing him as an evil person. But also, it ruins the suspension of disbelief. Anyone who doesn't know the previous movies knows already that this guy is evil, that he's going to... it's really strange.
That's a very fair argument, very fair. I think that's completely valid. And yeah, they've gone in with the idea that the audiences know the androids, in particular that model, are not... They're very much programmed to support the company and then not have no... In their code, have empathy for anyone. They're just the company people there. And they're always referred to as glitchy, weren't they? They're always a bit glitchy android. So, yeah, I get that completely. I mean, if it was a Lance Henriksen Bishop, the audience would be like, oh, okay, he's kind of nice. And then it could have been the twist that he wasn't nice.
That's a really interesting question. And a really interesting idea. Yeah, exactly. What if it was a broken Lance Henriksen they found here, and when they first turned him on, he reacted like Ian Holm just did, by like being a psychopathic monster?
Yeah.
Then that would really leave you guessing. You would have no idea where that character was going or what that character was going to be. There'd actually be suspense involved in it, rather than, it would be, the idea would be to keep the audience in suspense rather than to validate what they already think, which is all he does here, which is all his role seems to be in that respect.
I suppose that they may have had that discussion at the time. Who are they going to bring back as an android? They might have said, oh, because Lance is still around, but even though his voice is like proper old and croaky and like he's smoked 50 Marlboro a day kind of voice, right? But he's still around. And but I suppose because of everyone's love for the original film and and its connection to that film with finding the xenomorph in space, they're going to go with Ian Holm, right?
And it's kind of Alien, and then it flicks a switch, and it's Aliens in my memory of it anyway. And we're still in the Alien part here, so it wouldn't make any sense.
Totally spot on, Rob, because that was the design. So Romulus and Remus, one's Alien, and the others, when you get into, have they entered Remus now? Or is it Romulus they entered?
I can't remember. I don't know.
They enter one. So basically, production design is kind of Alien, and then when they get to the other part, where it's a bit more clean and modern, it's a bit more Alien. So in intent with designs, and also in terms of action and execution, right? So you're spot on with that comparison.
I mean, that's very. We're really breaking down the barrier between like the fourth wall and the movie, aren't we? Once you start referencing movies in that consciously and deliberately and specifically, it's almost like it almost becomes postmodern. Like you how far, how long before we're with a character who literally goes from one room to another, and everything in that first room relates to the first movie in whatever franchise it is, and everything in the second movie relates to the second. It's I don't know if that's a little bit too self-aware in its referencing of the pre-existing movies.
I think there should be a list of how many, like out of 5 or 10 references you can make. If you go over that, you're gonna be taking the piss, or just like falling into that sort of breaking the fourth wall with referencing stuff. But I don't blame Fede, the director, for wanting to go back to that world. I mean, people love that world, and it's like, with Blade Runner, you want to go back to that kind of future. What this film also has, which is an annoying trait of horror films, is kind of irritating characters doing stupid things, which Alien films don't tend to have, do they? You've got irritating people, but they don't go around doing too many stupid things, or people that are designed to be confrontational, or just, as with Burke, a company man through and through. But in Alien, there's no irritating character. You could argue Veronica Cartwright is just it's too screamy and just a bit wet blanket, but that's just kind of normal.
Yeah, within the scheme of characters, she fits and serves a perfect purpose. So yeah, and she's also kind of the anti-Ripley, isn't she?
Yes,
really, she's kind of the one who doesn't keep it cool and get shit done.
Yeah. I don't think she would have been mentally well to go on that trip. So yeah, in the case of Bjorn, kind of overreacting straight away, he thinks Andy's going to kill his girlfriend and him. He makes this huge blunder, and everything just goes tits up. And it's always the case, because always with these films, their plan seems very simple, straightforward, and they get there. Oh, okay, we don't have enough power for the cryo chambers, the hypersleep, whatever. Let's go get some more power. And then suddenly they try to pull it out, everything goes tits up, and then try to escape, and then this becomes this traditional storytelling. It just starts out with a plan, and it just goes downhill from that point onwards.
Yeah. And before you know it, you're watching people running about darkened space corridors, which I do think there's too much of, frankly. It's really been done now.
Well, that was that the complaint of Rennie Harlin, wasn't it? He didn't, because the scripts for Alien 3, before he decided to quit, and they were replaced by Vincent Ward and David Fincher. And there was just like, he read too many scripts of people running down corridors with guns and stuff. And it was always, we've debated, with Aliens, where in terms of what people want from sequels and even like video games, is that people want to see the pulse rifle back, and then they bring it back, with auto assist aim, like in a video game where you're not very good at first person shooters. I'll put auto aim on. This is for Rob Hill, this game.
When that scene came by, I thought to myself, yeah, video games have become a thing since Aliens, haven't they? Of course, and now it has to have auto aim so the kids can relate.
I remember I played Forza 3, the racing game, and I had auto on for everything. I turned it all off so I didn't have auto kind of like braking or whatever it was. I don't know what it was. Yeah. It became impossible to drive. I thought, I'm not this bad at racing games. I was pretty good at Sega Rally and stuff, but I thought, Christ, it's just...
Or the opposite of that, on the Mario Kart on the Switch, you can turn everything to automatic. Like the steering, everything. So all you have to do is hold the accelerator down and you win. So anyway, that's by the by.
That's good.
Yeah, this, again... Got to talk to Ash with all the milk coming out of him. I'm just looking at my notes, and at some point last night, I wrote down, running down dark space corridors. Can we trust a droid? Running down dark space corridors. Someone doesn't trust a droid. Running down dark space corridors. Cut loved one out of alien wall of gooey motherhood. Running down space corridors. Go back for someone. Running down space corridors. And then... Get away from her, you bitch.
Oh,
I don't remember that from when I first saw it, but he actually fucking says that.
He does, yeah.
Instantly became one of my worst lines in any movie.
That was, I mean, what you just read out sounds like, fan fiction, doesn't it? You're right. But the bit at the end when he says that, because Fede has said that they played it at test screening and the audience went wild, so they kept it in. So it's the audience's fault.
Of course the audience went wild. Fucking hell.
They should have saying bitch. You should have said blugger, which is the curse word changed in RoboCop, the TV cut. So saying bastard, he said blugger.
They've got to. People have to stop listening to audiences, man. Audiences are fucking. You cannot listen to what audiences say, and I include myself in that. You can't. If he'd flashed up Sydney Sweeney's tits on the screen, the audience would have gone wild. Doesn't mean that you want to do it or it makes the movie better.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's the thing about test screenings, isn't it? It's always, it must be such a nightmare because you always get someone who complains about one little bit and it ruined the movie for me, and you think everyone else is like, what are you talking about? And then that person makes such a big noise about it, it gets cut out.
Exactly. I can see the point of test screenings in terms of like trying to get a handle on whether or not the overall thing's working, if it works or not. But actually, like soliciting individual opinions about details like that from people who've seen the movie is the stupidest course of action imaginable, I think. It's always wound me up there. We've talked about this a lot, haven't we, actually, how... Why do people listen to the audience when the audience isn't a single unit? It's 100 different opinions. Why do you pick that one over the other 99?
Because these guys are paid a lot of money to be creative and have those creative ideas just be skewed by a couple of disgruntled fans or just general moviegoers. I'll be like, well, get stuffed, But I think a screen test is really, in case of this, do they jump at the right moment? Is the pacing good? And do they find the plot enjoyable? There's a couple of little basic elements, but if they're coming away saying, oh, they were eating cornbread at the beginning, it ruined the movie, it took me out of the picture. Or like when he said, get away from her, you bitch, Or, though, but Rob, if you were in that audience went, boo, hiss, when he said, get away from her, you bitch, they might have gone, oh my God, panic.
If I was in a test screening for the new Alien movie, and I didn't even necessarily know there was a new Alien movie, but I loved Alien, and then he did that, I would quite possibly have cheered too. I'd have been, because you're in a heightened state. It's a test screening. It's exciting. In my case, I'd probably be quite drunk, and that would be, potentially a great moment. But that doesn't mean that it's good for the film, or it's right for the film, or that it should be left in. It's
the bit here with the facehuggers. That guy hanging down. You see his brains all being eaten out. Is that the director? It looks like him. I thought it was Fede Alves. the facehugger sequence. Now they kind of throw in the idea that if you maintain a sort of body, the room temperature the same as your own body temperature, and you don't sweat, the facehuggers can't detect you. That was never a kind of thing, right? I never. So I mean,
no, but it's reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah. I think it's a reasonable idea. I don't have any beef with that.
It doesn't contradict any previous canon mythology or make something stupid and not work.
No, I don't think so. And this bit coming up is a bit different, isn't it? Because with actually, I think we've never seen before. Because when the chestburster disappears and goes and hides, it's cocooned itself, hasn't it? In this kind of, I don't know, big bloated vagina on the wall, right? And it's sort of, if you can say it's growing, right? So in that, this is very, to me, very Giga like Species.
Yeah.
Because like in Species, where the girl eats all the food, she cocoons on the train, and it's this big kind of thing on the big black messy thing on the wall. That's what kind of reminded me of. And I mean, it's like, yeah, it's another little addition to expand on the gestation of the alien and how it grows, and it's fine. It's fine.
And it's a new biological entity or organic thing that exists in space that looks like a vagina. So we can add that to the massive list of things that male, usually, alien designers have. I mean, actually, this is quite in keeping, isn't it? Because Cameron, obviously, his influence over this series is mega, and he's one of the pioneering everything alien has to look like a vagina people back in his Roger Corman days.
When I first saw this, I thought, when we see the hive later on, I thought, oh, are they going to throw in a queen alien? But no, they don't. And they have not bothered to. Is it something they're going to kind of ignore the queen from moving forward? Because it was Cameron's idea, it had the queen, then it would make an appearance in AVP. That's kind of it. And I think it was all about, in the first film, where it would cocoon people, then they all form these kind of facehugger eggs, right? In a deleted scene, or that was then put in the director's cut. That's pretty nasty.
I don't know why. I'd have sat up then, I think. Was he not just lying underneath the thing, dripping acid blood on him?
And just rolled over?
Just moved slightly. Maybe he couldn't. I missed one.
We did get when he got hit in the face by the tail, that would look like he would have just gone straight through his mouth and out of his head. But he was just holding his face. I'm like, wait a minute. Surely that would have been more damaging. I don't know, but.
Marvel have completely destroyed any kind of boundaries or limits when it comes to things like that now, haven't they? Once we've established that Scarlett Johansson can be thrown 2 miles through a building and then through a car and be absolutely fine.
Well, it's the Last Action Hero thing when he gets shot and he goes through the thing, and at the end he goes, it's just a flesh wound you've got. I do like this bit here when, it's such a good practical stuff, it's incredible. But when he's on the phone or the headset, and then he looks at Andy, he just goes, run. Just becomes this chaos and stuff. Which again, it's a scene you've kind of seen in other films where it's like, it's like Jurassic Park, where all the raptors look at you and you just go, run, and just charge off. But again, it's a great little moment to throw in some suspense in it.
Now you mention it. Yeah, you can see that some aspects really are very practical, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Things that would normally not be, I mean.
Okay, the music again. You hear the sort of choir of the 2001.
Yeah. I can't remember where it's most used. I know, they certainly use it as they're approaching the monolith in 2001. I mean, but yeah, it comes back throughout the movie. I kept noticing it.
I mean, other films have deployed it, like Godzilla, that kind of like choir thing, and even Superman Returns uses it when he pushes New Krypton into space.
Is it that similar though? Because the way it tonally kind of shifts up like that it sounds like a sample almost, rather than a re-recording.
Oh yeah.
This feels like it should be from a video game to me as well. I remember thinking, is this video game-esque. Am I
He does
imagining
the Indiana Jones escape. Through the door. It's like Bart trying to escape from Homer. You know,
it? Then grabs his hat.
grabs his change, and he doesn't he?
Oh, and he just made it. Fancy that. And also, if it had closed even a moment later, you'd all be dead. It's funny, once he becomes evil, so to speak, he actually just starts doing things that are really sensible.
Yeah.
They're constantly like looking at him like, you're evil, something's gone wrong. But he's actually he's doing something like with the pregnant woman who's trapped behind the door. And they're like, let her open the door, let her in. He's like, why? There's a fucking giant alien skewered her. If you open the door to let her in, you're all going to die.
Yeah.
Can none of you recognise that?
Yeah, it's those silly little moments that kind of characters doing stupid things, isn't it?
And it's obviously it's got a reference back to Alien because we have that scene in Alien where Sigourney Weaver's saying, no, we're not opening the door because it's not safe to open the door. But then it's completely logical. It's totally in keeping. And everyone's reactions are totally in keeping because, it's a more general threat that they're not really quite sure about the danger at that point. It's not a giant fucking monster visible through the glass waiting for you to open the door.
All he's got to do is you open the door, leaps, got you. That is it. You're screwed. Do you find this film more frustrating to watch than, say, Covenant, which you had your problems with? Because that had characters doing stupid things, didn't it?
Yeah, and I don't like going down this avenue of slagging these films off because they're not made for me and they don't bother me. It's only because I would never have thought about this film again if we weren't doing a commentary on it, and it wouldn't upset me in any given way. But rewatching it, it triggered me a bit, and I think it probably did trigger me a bit more than Covenant. I think it's because there's just nothing. They're not trying to do anything different. In Covenant, they're trying to do something different, and it's not brilliant, and it doesn't always work, but they are trying to do something different. I think this is the weakest film in the series, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
And I really don't like that one on the jungle planet, where whatever it is, where nothing in that film makes sense to me.
Jungle planet? You thinking of Predators?
No, we might be, actually. No, what's the one after Covenant?
There isn't one.
Isn't Covenant... Which one?
Covenant's the one where, David creates the alien, doesn't he?
Which is the first one that Ridley Scott came back to do? Prometheus. Sorry, no, yeah. Covenant is the really stupid one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one in the jungle, isn't it?
I remember it being in a jungle. Maybe it's not. But I would rather have to watch that again than this.
Oh, okay. Yes, there's no jungle audience in Prometheus.
I'm sure that whole film's set in a jungle, as I remember it.
You're sure not confused with some Bruceploitation movie set in a jungle? Fist of Fury 3 or something.
Yeah, this is one thing I was really pleased about, actually, is after this, the guy who's the husband, or whoever he is, the loved one, he doesn't just spiral into going nuts and hating Andy, or he just understands. He seems to just completely understand.
He does.
Of course we couldn't open the door. Of course I'm going to beg you to. It's my wife. I'll risk and sacrifice my life to let her in, but I understand, really.
Because afterwards he's just beat down about it. He's not like...
Yeah.
He doesn't lash out at Andy, where...
Normally the only way that you... Yeah. The only way... And in fact, that's all credit to them for finally coming across a cliche they don't then deploy. He should really, grab the nearest gun and just go running off into a room full of them and, shooting wildly and knowing that he's going to die. That's how that sequence normally ends.
Well, when they do get the gun, it's like, you got a gun. Oh, you can't use it. It's just to show. Now, what film? Oh, it's like an Aliens again, isn't it? Where they go into the hive, where everyone's all stuck to the walls, and because they're under this nuclear reactor, essentially. Oh, you can't use any.
Yes.
We're supposed to use foul language,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And they do that. They do the same thing in Red Dwarf as well, don't they? There's an episode where they arm up and go off to the spaceship, but then they're like, oh yeah, no, we can't. We've brought these guns with us, but we can't use them because the ship's too delicate. What? Then why did you bring? Yeah, anyway. I don't. What do you think of that sequence? It's coming up, isn't it? Where the payoff for the whole you can't use guns because the acid will fall through the floor, where they turn the gravity off so that they can therefore kill the aliens without the acid for blood going through the floor. That whole sequence seems to me to be like complete shit. That's the words I'm looking for. Like complete shit. Like, what is this? How did this not get cut when they rewatched the movie?
I thought the sequence was, let's have some fun with the malfunctioning kind of G-force, gravity system in place, and you got to dodge past the sort of lumps of acid in the air. Well, it's something I hadn't seen before. You can argue
there might
that.
be a reason for that, though.
Well, people don't deploy it.
But how do you deal with the logic behind it then? Because when they first, I don't remember it from the first time I saw it, but when I was watching last night and they say, I thought, oh, that's an interesting idea. But within 3 seconds, at least 5 different reasons as to why it could never work had already gone through my mind. So it's like, well then, like you shoot, so you turn off the gravity, fine. Whatever, there's a button that allows you to turn off the gravity just on that tiny little stretch of whatever, fine. But then you shoot them.
Yeah.
Like this isn't how energy works. This isn't how forces work. You use a powerful weapon in zero gravity to shoot something. The impact of of that being struck and exploded from the inside means that the acid is going to fly out in all directions. It isn't just going to stay completely still or like drift around really slowly, somehow magically never touching any of the surfaces.
Especially when you watch, astronauts in space when they drinking vodka or water, and just goes, this big lumps just kind of moves around slowly. So they probably use that as reference.
Yeah, but the force exuded on that water is negligible because they're just kind of placing it there, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas this is a massive space gun. There's probably some energy involved in that, and all that energy has to be dispersed. So it has to go somewhere.
Yeah,
that's how
that's true.
physics works.
I mean.
And all the blood kind of congeals very handily in these big clumps with people-sized gaps perfectly in between all. It's just terrible, that sequence.
I don't think it's terrible. I think it's they have fun with the idea of the gravity and doing something a little bit different, but in reality, it is a bit of a dumb idea, right? And they sort of aliens is generally stays within the remit of what's believable in terms of science, right?
Yeah, Alien Resurrection, I think something like that might have been passable in Alien Resurrection, maybe.
Okay, if it's passable in Resurrection, it should be passable in this, though.
The tone of this is completely different, though. Alien Resurrection's a big stupid B movie.
Big stupid French movie.
This is pretending to be this is pretending to be grown up.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at that with a very sort of, very objective kind of point of view and go, yeah, it's a bit.
Maybe I'm taking it too seriously.
I think down to the fact that because you're not invested in what's going on, you're picking apart the little bits of it. I think really that would, we should completely justified to do. If the film is not engaging you, then you're going to start looking at what's wrong with this and that within the set piece.
It's one of the things of modern movies that frequently happens that bugs me. The whole thing of, well, this is a good idea. Okay, fine. Now beat it around, kick it around the room for a few hours till you've found all the problems with it, all the holes in it, and then decide whether or not you want to stick with it. And that's why the world of Alien and Aliens feels so real, I think, maybe, because there's nothing in it that's, it feels like everything is, all the ideas they've been pulled and tested and stretched, and everything makes sense. Everything fits together. Nothing contradicts anything else. Nothing demands the audience to give it the benefit of the doubt or whatever. And that's the kind of idea that sounds great when someone says it out loud. But once you start kicking it around, it's so implausible and so naff that, I mean, it should be in an Alien rip-off, and a bad one.
Do you think that because of the position we're in, where we critique movies and talk about them, especially with a commentary, where you may find yourself being overly critical to keep a talking point? That you find yourself over analysing stuff or being like, and in the case of Aliens, there's that sequence that's coming up where the gravity stuff, but the idea stem from this is pretty cool, like action sequence. Let's just do it and not think about okay, does it fit within the sort of the realms of reality in the Alien films, or just like does this make sense, logically? And the police thought, well, no, it's just a fun sequence, and they probably had fun doing it, and people reacted to it. And if you're not thinking about, oh, okay, the pressure of the bullets, where's the blood going to go, the acid, most general moviegoers won't think about that.
I know what you mean. For me, it falls this side of the line, which we have. There is a point at which filmmakers don't really have a responsibility to try and make everything believable. Of course, but for me, it comes this side of that line. And it also, like I say, it's really important. What's important is the context of the movie, is the tone of the movie and the nature of the movie. That Alien Resurrection may be a bunch of Alien rip-offs I can think of, definitely. But this, or the original Alien, imagine if that sequence was integral to Ripley's escape in the original Alien. Oh, yeah, I feel sick just saying it.
I love that when they went into that medical lab, a science lab, sorry, you saw the footage of the rat or the mouse that had the stuff, and it's it seems fine. And then when they leave, it's just like this big horrible thing has come out of its cage, and when Rook knows that's what's going to happen, and then Andy's like, oh, we could use this to help repair her, and he obviously decide against it. She does it on her own accord, so it's her fucking fault, but given false information. But yeah, this stuff isn't it? It's redesigned to keep people from dying or be superhuman, isn't it? Because everyone's dying on these colonies.
Yeah. Well, that's what Ash says anyway. Yeah, which again, I'm not sure. So far, Weyland-Yutani's motivation has been military, as far as we're, or did we just assume that all along? I mean, that's why they want the alien. They want it for military applications, I thought.
Yeah, it's always military applications, yeah. That's what they wanted it for.
So now, in the same film that we introduced the idea of how little Weyland-Yutani care about their workers and how little they care about their well-being, that's when we choose to introduce the idea that they're actually motivated entirely by their workers' well-being.
Yeah, I mean, does it fall in line with like Sean Connery's Outland, where they're taking drugs to keep people, working longer hours. You know what I mean?
I suppose, yeah. If it was,
and they're not gonna. If your staff aren't gonna die, they're gonna do things quicker. They're gonna be stronger.
Right? Yeah. Well, I see. Yeah, like they want to save their staff's lives, not out of altruism, but in order for profitability purposes. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. I wonder.
Typical evil corporation attitude,
But also, you create. Do Weyland-Yutani want to create a bunch of super people if they're trying to keep them under their thumb, pinned down,
who've got like really long necks and long arms and legs?
Surely that creates a bit of a danger of.
This is Dave. He's on accounting. Oh my god. I remember in the behind the scenes where I swear I saw some of the production crew putting essentially bin bags on the walls to create the black stuff, right? If you stretch it out and put it round like a angled shape and light it gives you that reflection, doesn't it? And it.
Yeah, it's got the right kind of luminance, isn't it? Yeah, the right reflective.
Very clever.
I've seen a scene like this before.
I think it was in Short Circuit 2.
I'm fairly sure it was in a Sergio Martino movie. This guy, the guy here, what's his name? Not Andy, him. The good guy.
Oh, Tyler.
He keeps reminding me of a British rapper called Ren. I don't know why. I'm not even sure he even looks like him, but it's really distracting me how much he keeps looking like.
He's got a proper posh boy's name, Archie.
Oh, of course. Of course. He went to RADA, I reckon.
Yeah.
She's perfectly good, isn't she? I do remember actually thinking she was more than perfectly good the first time I saw this, but rewatching it, she's fine. But she's the one from Civil War, which I didn't realise when I was watching Civil War, and I think she's great in that, really good in that.
Yeah, she gets Singer Bob killed at the end, doesn't she? She gets in the way.
Yeah.
Silly girl. Trying to get that perfect photo to go on Instagram.
I don't know if she's also in that Wake Up Dead Man, isn't she?
Ooh.
Which, again, I hadn't realised it was her until I looked up to see what she was doing. She's you've seen it, haven't you?
No, I've not seen Wake Up Dead Man.
Oh, haven't you? I thought you'd watched it.
Oh, sorry, I have. I do apologise. I have seen it. Yeah, I think it's a third Knives Out movie, which I thought was very good. Very good. My wife's parents were like, I didn't particularly like it. So why? Because Daniel Craig doesn't pop up to like 45 minutes into the movie. I'm like, can't bother me. It's got Prince Charles doing some good acting.
Yeah, Daniel Craig's the least of the characters in those movies generally.
Oh, and obviously Glenn Close in that movie was so funny. When the girl stood up in her wheelchair, she's like, she screams out loud.
I was quite disappointed with it overall, to be honest. But Glenn Close was fantastic, and so was the main guy, can't remember.
Girl guy.
But yeah, she's the cellist in the wheelchair, the one who stands up. I didn't recognise her at all.
I suppose I didn't cast her in The Last of Us because she looks quite like the character from the video game. Here we go. This is a good shot, practical shot to the eye. Oh.
Nice.
Oh, again, isn't it? We haven't mentioned with the blue haze at the bottom. You know, like an alien. I wonder if I must have grabbed that from some rock band doing a music gig next door. Where did they grab it from in the first one again? That laser. What was it? Someone was doing a gig, like a music video or something.
It was literally like the studio next door or something. I can't remember
the name.
Well, the heavily armed hero has made it back to the lift, and now she's going up, and hopefully to. Do you know what I mean? It's so similar, though. Should just do something different.
If she'd said when she went to the lift, "Come on, God damn it!" You know, because it's like taking forever. You'd be like, "Yes, you've referenced aliens again."
The audience would have cheered.
Oh, definitely.
And something inside me would have died a little bit.
Rob would have gone more bald.
Yeah.
It's all gone now.
That's
it's all
not
gone.
Possible.
It's all gone. She's got to go back for Andy. You can't leave Andy.
Of course, you've got to go back down there. You've got to go back.
Well, there's loads of aliens. And you can't fire your gun.
Newt.
You've got to go back for Newt, yeah.
So does she know she's doomed? I can't remember.
Who?
The one who they've just rescued from the. 'Cause she's got a thing inside her, hasn't she?
She hasn't.
Hasn't she?
No, they didn't. The facehugger didn't attach to her because.
It hadn't been put in yet. Of course, I remember now. Yeah.
So she's basically dying from her wounds. So she's going to use the black stuff to sort of. She's been told it will repair her, but in fact, it basically it all goes into her womb and turns the baby into that kind of engineer.
Oh, is that where it came from? I didn't notice where it had come from.
And then weirdly, because afterwards, when you see Andy find her on the floor, she pulls this black stuff. She's lactating the black stuff.
Nice. Okay.
Because at first I didn't know that. At first, and on third viewing, I was like, "Oh yes,
that's great. That's really messed up. That's great."
I know.
God, there's even the same. It's exactly the same level of wind that she's being exposed to.
What, like an alien's?
God, yes.
Oh, God, put the fan to 4. Okay, it's the same amount of wind.
Where are they now?
Well, the lift went up and she climbed down the ladder.
Yeah, so she's gone back down. So she's underground on a space station.
Also, remember, they've got 20 minutes before that thing collides. That would have taken her more than 20 minutes to climb down that sodding ladder. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
This is my sort of frustration with, because they know they've got excellent. This film should become like a countdown, so it should be like picking up the pace. But because they're slowing down for these moments, you know, the sense of urgency is lost.
Exactly. If only they had a demonstration scene for them to copy, where they do that really well. You know, where someone goes back down into a.
I think there's a film called Aliens that does that.
Is there?
Yeah,
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh. I hate being this negative, because it's not me, and it's not. This film isn't made for me, and I don't begrudge anyone for liking it. And
because you like Alien franchise, it's a sequel, it's an Alien film.
Yeah, but I hate modern films, and you can't make a film like this for everybody, generationally speaking, just because of the amount of cliches and so on that you need. George Lucas always has the piss taken out of him for saying this, but I agree with him partly when he defends how Star Wars just kind of rips off a bunch of pre-existing tropes and archetypes and so on. He said, but these myths, these stories need telling for every generation. Every generation needs their own version of this story, and I couldn't agree more with that. But the problem is, you can't tell this story again now without repeating so much that people who are invested and you know, have seen the originals and have seen all those tropes and so on thousands of times, you're going to, in my case anyway, you're going to rule them out, because there's no point for them. Every generation needs to have the same story told again and again. I can agree with that, but I don't think every individual needs to see each generation's retelling of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not for me, and that's absolutely fine. I don't expect it to be, and it shouldn't be. It should be trying to find new audience. Just like Star Wars absolutely should not be made for 50-year-old men. It's fucking stupid.
That is true. Yeah. Well, that's kind of that was kind of my beef with the new Superman film. It's like parts that are like, it's it kind of, I feel like it's trying to cater for me, but I kind of walked away from it going, there's something not right.
Yeah.
And I think that's not made for me anymore. You know, it's a different generation who likes Superman, you know.
Do you know what the great thing about that is, though, Ollie? No one's taken away Richard Donner's original Superman, have they? No one's taken it away.
No, they haven't.
We've still got it. When we want to watch Superman, we still have proper Superman
I still
to
got
watch.
Superman 4.
Which is probably the one I've seen the most times, actually. I know that it'd be 2. It'd blatantly be 2, actually.
When I saw this at the cinema, I was like, I had to pay extra because it was in the iSense screen. I don't know what the fuck that means. I think it's just put in more speakers, right? And a big subwoofer, right? And when she locks and loads the pulse rifle, right, when she fired it, the sound, so good. You know, there is that part of me where, like, I get annoyed when fans go, pulse rifles, put more pulse rifles in this. But when you hear that sound in a cinema, proper surround sound, oh my God.
Do they sound like the original pulse rifles sounded, or is it like a modern...
No, it's identical one, but it's just like, it's just been through modern speakers and, you know, and mixing it. It was good. It'd be like hearing Robocop's gun go off, you know what I mean? That sort of sound effect. You hear that again, you're like, you know.
Yeah. Oh, for God, I mean, why is he playing the scene like that? Well, he's not a real actor, is he? But it's like he's clearly fucking evil. He's even clearly enjoying being evil. He's a fucking droid who in the first film shows no emotion whatsoever at any point because he doesn't have emotion. But he's reveling in his own evil now. It's stupid.
It's like, I can help you. I'm a friend. It's like,
yeah,
I've never met you before.
If you want to make out you're a friend, don't act like the most menacing person in the world. Act like you actually want to convince her that you're her friend, rather than just give the audience someone to go, "Ooh, isn't he evil at?"
Here we go. Cheat mode activated.
Logic settings off. Physics challenged.
Ray tracing on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they kind of cut to slow motion or something, don't they? When they're
And it's got good practical insert shots when the heads get, which is good.
Is this exciting as well? Is this actually an action scene?
It's kind of fine. I was shouting short control bursts because you're probably using too much ammo.
I mean, she is now so overpowered compared to them that there's no tension because there's no threat. It's like in a video game when you're heavily armoured and you've got a massive machine gun and there's like 10 bad guys between you and the door you have to get to, and you don't even think about it. You just mow them down because they're not a threat. It feels a bit like that.
He's basically got the option like what a smart gun does, right? The smart gun would auto aim. It does that like in the video games when you hold it, it'd be an auto aim. That's what it's called, a smart gun. So this is a pulse rifle that's been modded with a smart gun option. Which again, it's not, it all fits within, the tools available for the Marines. But yeah, here comes Rob's favourite moment.
Honestly, this is like to me, this is like one of those early. It makes me think of that Star Trek movie where they make Klingon blood out of CG and it's completely unconvincing in zero gravity, kind of blobbing about.
Oh, Star Trek 6, yeah.
It makes me think of that, and that's how realistic this blood looks to me. There'd be droplets everywhere. They wouldn't all just be swirling in slow motion in a striking manner that the camera operator can mimic in the opposite direction. I'm not too bad at overthinking scenes like this usually, but this one's just next level. And it's clearly because they wanted this image, they wanted this bit. Because they didn't even think to try and make it exciting, the actual killing of the aliens. They didn't even bother trying to make that interesting. It's obviously all about having this. That's beautiful. All about having this image of them trying to, like, weave their way through this threatening thing.
Oh, you're referencing the stuff outside them, saying it looks amazing, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because if it was just her down that corridor shooting them as they bounce off the walls and stuff, that would be like, oh, we're just seeing aliens again, right? It's just going, how far do you go with, like, okay, well, we've put ourselves in a scene very much like Aliens, but we can't, but the execution of what happens in that scene can't be the same.
Yeah. Part of me feels like they wanted to kind of combine a bunch of scenes. Obviously, it's the well-used scene of two people trying to get down a corridor, but I feel like they're also kind of going to maybe emulate something about the underwater scene in Resurrection, because that was kind of like a flagship scene. If you remember, at the time, it was talked about a lot, and it's kind of, it was because it was completely new and different, and similarly, it's using 3 dimensions in the same way, and it's equally new and different, and it's obviously meant to be like a set piece moment.
What I'm thinking is, right, because Covenant was a bit risky, I think, with its ideas and pissed people off, I think, maybe Fede's gone in with an idea and they've developed it, but along the way they've gone like this, maybe scale things back, because there was discussion or rumours that this was only designed for streaming, like be on Hulu, like a Hulu movie, like the Prey movie was designed to be streaming, not a theatrical presentation. And people thought this would be following the same route, but they said no, this was actual designed for theatrical presentation as a proper movie, not like this limited budget type thing where but I do get a sense that there's no evidence of this, but I do get a sense that maybe because Covenant was so controversial, that they've gone, look, we've got to play it a little bit more safe with this. We can't take another risk, because the Alien movies are never, they're never making $400-500 million movies. They make 180, or 100 million, right? I don't know what Justice for Inflation was in terms of the first one, but they're always made for a small budget generally, and they generally generate a decent amount of profit, and they make a killing on video and broadcast. This one, what minimum? I think it was was it 80 million, something like that. This is an $80 million movie, made 350 million. So that is again the most successful Alien movie, I think.
It's really, this was $80 million,
Yeah,
was it?
yeah.
There's a lot of visual effects and quality imagery in general for $80 million.
They shot it in Budapest as well.
Yeah, you've got the advantage of everything being set bound and a limited cast of largely unknowns, I suppose. Yeah,
But also, if you are doing a lot of stuff in camera, there's going to be for most shots. There's going to be some CGI elements to it. Like there'll be less so of it, and that's probably given the budget. Given not a huge amount of budget for the visual effects, just to waste money on.
where do we stand at the moment then? Is it still significant, or is it currently significantly cheaper to create a random shot of an alien physically than in CG? Is it generally seen now to be cheaper to go the non-CG route?
I don't work in that industry. I couldn't say that, but you're the one who came from that industry. But I don't know if you had that discussion with people.
The problem is everyone had stopped doing the
Practical stuff.
Like when I worked in it, no one was doing the practical stuff, so there was no comparison.
I think it's cheaper to do it within camera, practical. But the problem is, producers and executives and studio heads don't like going with practical stuff because they can't change it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's harder to control. As well.
You have to make a decision. This is how it's going to look. Like if you're going to light it in a very specific way and not change it within, shooting it completely raw and quite flat. You can just change it within the grading process. But I think with this, there was very much a decision. This is going to be practical. This is how it's going to look. And they've decided on that. And that's when it comes to the visual effects. It's like, okay, we don't have to do huge amounts on this. We've got select scenes we can do, and go from there. And that's why we kept the budget reasonable.
Because there was a film a few years ago, wasn't there? A Thing, like a riff on The Thing, made by and there were a bunch of old school people involved in it, and they did everything practically.
Oh, it's directed by Alec Gillis and yeah.
That would make a lot
was it
of
Harbinger
sense, yeah.
Down?
That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah. And I believe that was. It didn't do very well, but I believe it was very cheap to make. And I remember thinking for all the effects in it. If it was cheap to make, then I think it's safe to say it is cheaper to use practical effects, generally speaking. It's a big, vague comparison to make, isn't it? But that's just great. This looks brilliant.
Was it a crowdfunded thing they did?
I think it might have been.
I don't think story-wise it was received well, but I think people were obviously very impressed with the effects because it was directed or produced by two masters of the industry. It's Alec Gillis who worked on 5 other Alien movies, did the facehugger stuff in this. Not for the facehugger, the baby face, the chestburster. That's why it probably looks the best it's ever looked in the series. Oh, what are you doing? Where'd it go? We turn. Gets annoyed. I've turned off autopilot.
So remember, you're meant to be convincing people you're not evil. So we're roughly halfway, aren't we? I think between Alien and Aliens, the time period.
Yes,
here.
this is set in 2142, and Alien. I'm just double check because the film
2122.
Is it?
I think Alien. But my memory is not something I'm famed for.
Oh yeah, nor is mine with dates and like that. Well, dates that aren't really shown in the film. Maybe it tells you at the beginning with the text on screen in Alien.
I thought we just got a shot of exploding space thing, and to be authentic, there was no sound, but then there were lots of flames. Although actually, no, I take that back because apparently that is a more feasible reality than people think. I saw this is a long-standing complaint, isn't it, that when spaceships blow up, they often are engulfed in flames, which apparently is impossible. But I saw an episode of Mythbusters, where they tested this theory in a vacuum. And I don't know how much of a difference a gravity-free vacuum be, or a proper space vacuum might be. But what they learnt was the oxygen in the spaceship was, assuming the spaceship has a human breathing atmosphere. When you blow up the spaceship, that oxygen explodes in the vacuum in exactly the same way you see it happen in movies.
So Star Wars is real.
So all these years, we've all been telling each other that these explosions are fake. Actually, they're real.
Wait, this is set 20 years after the first one.
Right.
And
yes, that'd be 21, 22.
And about 25 years before Aliens.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this is gross.
Yeah, no shit. Good reaction.
Yeah.
Get it away from me. Yep.
I was like, I'll just float into space, but she's holding it, and then the acid it's already like starts melting through, so she, has to drop it, and it just goes through the floor. Also, why would she just be in her underpants and stuff, practically the shorts, at this point? Also, you wouldn't be wearing no shoes or socks running around there. You'd be wearing...
No, you wouldn't, would you?
Put some flip-flops on or slippers,
But in Alien movies, whenever we have scenes around the cryo chamber things, people are in their cryo chamber clothes. So she has to be too, I guess. Was she about to get in one or something?
That's very Body Snatchers, that was, sort of pod. Her face there, that was a good reaction. I think she should have said, "What the fuck?" It's one of those moments.
It's a bit like it made me think of The Fly, that horrible dream birth sequence in The Fly when Gina Davis gives birth to a
sort of maggot thing,
God, again, that was so frustrating. That's such a beautiful shot we just had of a planet with the ring steaming past in the foreground, and 2 seconds probably.
I think Rob just needs a 2-hour screensaver type movie of just space and ships flying past slowly. I think they'd be like, yeah, that's good.
That would be perfect. After an hour of that, we can cut to some men in brown clothes in a brown room talking.
And occasionally having telephone conversations with big old rotary phones, yeah.
I watched a movie called Delirium the other day from 1979, and it was one of those films that was abandoned halfway through and then picked up by someone else. So it's effectively 2 completely different films. One of them's like a psycho killer murdering people, and then a totally different tone and everything for the boring policeman pursuing him. And I looked up, after I watched it, I looked up online, and every single critic's review says the same thing on Letterboxd. I really like the crazy murder stuff, but the boring men just walking about talking, I couldn't bear that. And obviously I loved all the boring men walking about talking bit, and didn't like the psycho killer bit.
Oh, amazing. See, that's got big really quickly.
This is why I missed last night where it came from. So it's just another one of those, this is the gestation period this time, and this is the growth period this time, because that's what we want it to be.
Yeah, of course. It's the bit coming up, though. I'm seeing it in the cinema, and he sees... is her name Kaya? I can't remember her name, but she's... you see she's like lactating this black stuff. And behind him, you just see the creature looking at them through the thing. I was like, oh my God, that was so fucked up. It was, I credit where credit's due, man. They've created a really creepy monster, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
And it was, they used an actor, a basketball player who was like, is got this kind of overgrown kind of body. Like it's kind of, oh God. It's slightly disturbing.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I do. Yes. Yeah, this thing's horrible, isn't it?
I mean, again, it was like watching Resurrection, wasn't it? This horrible monster. It thinks like that's its mother, right? And he goes towards her and obviously rejects him, and so he eats her.
Without that stupid expression that the one from Resurrection has.
Oh, it's horrible though, Resurrection, when he gets sucked out the window and all its guts are popping out and he just like get through the thing. I was just like, oh, I can't watch that bit. Oh, see, that's all. Like, you know, guy
So
in a suit.
that's a man in a suit?
Yeah.
Good Lord. I would never have guessed that in a million years. Never.
And his eyes as well, and he's got his silver teeth as well. It's all very creepy. He's got the tongue that comes out, you know, you see.
Is that his real tongue?
Bloody hope not.
There aren't many people who could have told me that, and I'd believe them, to be honest.
Believe the words of Oliver Harper.
I'm not going to argue with you on alien lore, that's for sure. Okay, so shouldn't she have a flamethrower by now? Or
Oh, she's got a freeze gun, hasn't she? Like the...
I was actually joking, because Sigourney Weaver has a flamethrower at this point, so surely she should too.
Yeah.
But she's actually got an anti-flamethrower.
It's like in Predator 2. You know, with Gary Busey's got that kind of thing, isn't he? That gun. It's a bit like that, I suppose. I'm sure it's a freeze thingy.
Yeah, it's They didn't quite have. They obviously had the conversation about the flamethrower, but didn't quite have the nerve. Like, what's the nearest thing to a flamethrower?
Yeah, freeze gun.
Yeah, but it's completely useless. Just makes him wave his arms about.
Now this bit here, mate, because I think it's getting really cold now, and she's, I think, running out of oxygen. But this bit here, when she walks off, she's like,
"Oh,
it's such a weird walk, isn't it?"
I thought, funnily enough, when I noticed this bit last night, and I thought to myself, there's something really odd about that. I bet Ollie's noticed that and is going to mention it, and I wonder if there's a reason behind it. But what I hadn't realised was that everything was freezing up, so maybe that is the reason behind it. Maybe she's like cold, I don't know.
It's just a bit weird, like she's busting for a shit. You know, she's holding it in.
I did like it though, because it left me wondering, like, that must have been for a reason, but what is it? Something had happened that wasn't prescribed by history.
And it provides this amazing imagery where she's kind of stumbling as she walks, and you've got all this steam, and in the steam you've got this horrible monster with long arms emerging from it.
It made me think of the T-1000. I forget what they're called. The Robert Patrick Terminator, when he's frozen at the end, when he's frozen by. What's it called?
Oh, liquid nitrogen.
Yeah. He does the same kind of staccato, weird walk as his feet are falling off.
And she just again in the shorts. Well, it's obviously in the 70s. They put Sigourney in like very small pants, didn't they? And in this, she's got her in shorts, and they put her in a space outfit, and following a similar track. And again, this bit kind of disappointed me, because again it was, let's kind of suck it out into space, and that was which Covenant did, Resurrection did, Aliens did, Simpsons did it, you know what I mean? Moment.
There probably is actually a moment in The Simpsons as well when a xenomorph is forcibly. There has to be a Treehouse of Horror episode where that happens somewhere. Simpsons literally did it.
But I also found it when I saw it on the big screen, I found it confusing when she's hanging out of the ship on the rope or the cord, as it were, and then the new engineer kind of grabs her, and he's getting like pulled apart, and it becomes a little bit confusing with the geography of what's happening within the scene as it gets pulled away, and then she gets kind of swings by, and when she swings by on the rope and she's pulling herself up near the end, it's not great CG where they've mapped in her head, I think, into the double or the CG double. It's not quite convincing, but I'll point it out when you see it. Look at that big ship. Oh, that's great.
What they've done, interestingly, I think anyway, for the space scenes, is they've got a lot of like depth by having all kinds of. There's always particles floating about, or debris, or something. It's really
those are good depths of field stuff, you know.
Yeah. In fact, this film makes me think, has made me think a bunch of times of. I'm not going to remember what it's called now. The TV series, space TV series with Thomas Jane in the first series, for the first few episodes anyway. And it's a one-word title. Oh, shit, I'm going to have to look it up. I'm really sorry.
Did you see the engineer dude? He's not got a willy. He's got like a little innie thing.
He's got a vagina.
Also might pop out of it. I don't know. It's a bit...
Ooh.
Yeah.
That'd be really disturbing.
If it popped out near the end, you'd be like, "Oh my god!" And then she chops it off. Oh, every bloke in the audience would have winced. Oh, I felt that. You know.
The Expanse.
The Expanse.
The Expanse. That's what it's called. It's got a lot of the same, like the early scenes on the slave planet. It's got a lot of that kind of stuff in it, like people, colonies being overworked by awful people and terrible living conditions and that kind of thing. But it's a world in which we have colonized space, but in a really unromantic and exciting way.
Oh right, I've never seen that.
It's good.
Let's give that a spin. Here we go. She just because also now it's flashing black. It's very hard to see what's going on. It's flickering going on with the lights.
Yeah.
And then you see her. She goes through the cargo bit, and the ship pulls her up, and then she climbs her way up slowly as you see the cargo bay thing smash into the ring of the planet, and as she pulls herself up, you can see her face.
Oh,
doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know why.
It looks like it might be CG rather than her face mapped onto it.
Yeah. Off they go.
Well, it is different. The way he's sucked out is different, isn't it?
Yeah,
we can give it that.
Yeah.
And well done for not sniggering once when I said that.
There was a shot, when it's crushing her helmet and she's looking out of the helmet. It's just like, that is the shot in Alien where Ripley turns, and it's behind her. It's like, you couldn't help, Fede couldn't help himself, but like, I've got to redo that shot, Because it was Disney said they wanted to do a sequel, but then Fede's like, well, never do a sequel straight away. You need to give the audience time. You need to give it because Alien 7 years, he said, but now he's like produced a script which was reported in September of last year, but he's not going to direct it. I think he's like, I don't want to. I need a break, but the studio's like, no. Sequel, we need more money,
I'd be interested in it, to be honest, because it's kind of, this is like The Force Awakens in a way, isn't it?
It is.
And it's followed the prequels in a way, the late in the day, later movies that try to explain where it all comes from and that everyone hates, or that most people don't like anyway, sensible people don't like. And that led to a bounce back in the opposite direction, which is why this is so if they're following that principle, the next film has the opportunity to be all kinds. It could be anything.
Yeah.
They'll presumably swing back in the other way again now, having received criticism for being too predictable and too much like the older movies. So where will that take them? They could go anywhere.
Well, obviously it's going to take them an X amount of years to get to this planet where she can escape to, which they did allude to that they don't allow androids on there, so it's kind of a weird thing. But will she, along the journey, be intercepted by Weyland-Yutani? But then how, there's no remnants of an alien on that ship. There's no thing, that's all been destroyed. So either Fede's written a script that doesn't continue this storyline and it's its own thing, or they're going to do something completely different. And I'd say it would be a shame not to have her return and Andy, because the movie spent a lot of time wanting you to invest in them. And for not to return, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe for the third one they may return, but for the next one it needs to be, as you say, they can now step away from being a retro kind of nostalgia movie, greatest hits of aliens in one film, to be, let's do something completely different.
Something completely original.
Which is hard with this franchise, because we have seen, despite being before this film, repetition.
Exactly, and they're also, wherever they start from, they're starting from a woman and an android in a escape pod or whatever it is, arriving somewhere.
On a prison planet.
Somewhere, and that somewhere is going to have an alien on it, one way or another. Although I suppose there may not be an alien, a complete alien being on that spaceship, but there's going to be enough genetic material left over for Wayland to conceivably, want that ship and need that ship in order to extract the information they're looking for.
I don't know how long those hyper sleep chambers are powered for. I mean, she could be stuck in space for years, and she finds herself in a different, far more in the future where things have changed, or she could land somewhere. It becomes this political drama where everyone's in rooms on the telephone talking.
That'd be awesome. Can the rooms be brown?
The audience go, "Where are the aliens?" It's like, they're talking about spreadsheets and whatever.
I think they have to keep Weyland-Yutani in now, don't they? They've gone so. It feels like everyone who writes these movies has been determined to make Weyland-Yutani relevant to everything, when they're kind of just a background thing in the original movie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously now with Alien Earth TV show, which kind of has, different.
I don't know anything about that.
Multiple different companies set before. Well, set around the events before Alien, I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember the timelines of that now. Alien Earth is 2120, so it's set before, 2 years before Alien. Only 2 years. So, but it has Weyland, has Yutani, and it has another company. So who's developing the androids. So it's all before Weyland and Yutani kind of form into one. But I think with that show focusing around the sort of the company aspects of things, I think it's very, to not use them in the next follow-up would be confusing for audiences, because they're so familiar now with Weyland Yutani being the company that he wants to control the alien and use it as a weapon. And
yeah.
But yeah, I really don't know where they're going to go with this, because either they're going to do a repetition of something else, or have shades of, them two stuck somewhere and they can't escape, or they've been under maybe they bump again like Alien 3 or something, this religious cult, and they just can't escape from them. And
It's a tough challenge, to be honest. I mean, normally, if I'm thinking about what I would do if I were to make a sequel to a movie, it might not be a good idea, but I'll have an idea. I'll think of something, and I can't think of anything that I would want to do. Like, what story? If you were handed the opportunity to make a sequel to this film, what story would you want to tell?
I would say she encounters David. So big about Michael Fassbender, which will annoy a lot of people.
Yeah, you're going to have to think of a very clever way of making that happen in a believable manner.
Yeah, or she encounters an engineer, because there were still engineers out in the galaxy, and she comes across one of those, or it intercepted one of those big like croissant ships, the Juggernaut, and it finds her and it wants to, and for once it's not out to kill them. It's looking for information, and to find out what's going on. And then it gets in, and it's not like an engineer's out to kill them. It's going to be there to help them. That'd be quite interesting. I'd like to see that.
So how does the alien fit in then?
Well, the engineer is going to sort of trace its steps, I suppose, of the events and find itself on LV-426, or it is, I don't know. But then that's got to be after, because it gets blown up in Aliens, doesn't it? The whole area, so it decimates any sort of evidence of the original ship that crash landed there.
That's true, but it's going to have to take place before Aliens if she's going to play the part, because she's not going to.
Well, I think maybe she encounters the engineer, and then the engineer discovers that it's all seeded from David on that planet, and they go to the planet, and then and he's going to bump into David, different types of android, again.
It's something that ties everything together, something that draws everything in together would be, I don't know how the hell you'd do it.
Because when I saw this, I thought this was kind of like, we're not going to give you a third movie with Fassbender, we're just going to give you their little piece to connect the series together with the black stuff, right? And you see an engineer near the end, it's kind of a mix of that and a xenomorph. But I don't know. I do miss Fassbender and his performance, and it'd be good for her to sort of come into contact with him, and an engineer who's not shown to be evil.
Yeah, that's an interest. I do like the idea of engineers because if the most, I've always struggled, probably because of Star Trek, I've always struggled with the idea that the most advanced race in the universe is fundamentally evil. It doesn't. It's not. I don't know. It doesn't make as much sense to me as them being fundamentally kind of at least benevolent.
Yeah.
So a completely morally neutral engineer would be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be interesting as well. Well, folks, that's the end of the commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure some of you probably had some complaints about what we said.
Yeah, I apologise. I apologise.
I think people who are annoyed would have tuned out earlier and missed out on your apology. So maybe I should put a timestamp. If you want Rob's apology, come to the end. But yeah, I'd probably watch the film again in a few more years. But watching it twice in a row is a bit much for me.
That score rules it out. I can't. Worse than 1,000 Armageddons.
Okay, folks, take care and goodbye.